You've probably heard the phrase, "nice guys finish last," but the deeper psychological reason behind it has nothing to do with being nice. In fact, what holds people back isn't their kindness, but a hidden psychological pattern that often masquerades as virtue. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm really glad you're here today because we are going to explore something that affects so many compassionate, empathetic people. We are going to look at the psychology of agreeableness, and why being overly accommodating can sometimes lead to feeling invisible, resentful, or undervalued in relationships and careers. But here's the part most people never realize: the solution isn't to stop being a good person. It's to understand the difference between kindness and self-abandonment. To understand why this happens, we have to look at personality through a lens that researchers often use, which includes a dimension called agreeableness. Now, on the surface, agreeableness sounds wonderful. It is associated with cooperation, empathy, politeness, and social harmony. Highly agreeable people are the glue that holds communities together. They are the friends who listen, the partners who compromise, and the employees who say yes to help the team. But this next insight might explain more than you expect about why these traits can backfire. When agreeableness becomes extreme, or when it is driven by fear rather than genuine choice, it stops being a strength and starts becoming a liability. Psychologists suggest that when we prioritize getting along with others above our own well-being, we aren't actually engaging in kindness, we are engaging in conflict avoidance. And this is where things get interesting, because the world doesn't necessarily reward people who never make waves. It rewards people who add value, and sometimes, adding value requires a little bit of friction. Think about that for a moment. If you are always smooth, always accommodating, and always bending to the will of others, you eventually lose your shape. People can't get a grip on who you are because you are constantly morphing to fit their expectations. This is often where the "nice guys finish last" trope comes from. It's not that people dislike nice guys, it's that people struggle to respect those who lack boundaries. Many people experience this in their careers, where they do all the extra work but get passed over for promotions. Or they experience it in dating, where they pour everything into a partner only to be told, "You're great, but there's just no spark." That spark that is missing is often the tension of two distinct personalities meeting. If you are just an echo of the other person, there is no connection, only reflection. But this next part explains why people sometimes stop respecting overly agreeable behavior, even when they benefit from it. There is a subtle psychological concept often called the covert contract. Many people who identify as nice are unknowingly operating under this hidden agreement. The contract says, if I do everything you want, and if I never upset you, and if I hide my own needs, then you are obligated to love me and give me what I want. The problem, of course, is that the other person never signed this contract. They just see someone who is eager to please. When the nice person doesn't get the love or success they feel they paid for with their niceness, they often become secretly resentful. This resentment is poison to relationships. It transforms that sweet, agreeable nature into passive aggressiveness. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right but still being overlooked, you're definitely not alone, and it's usually because this covert contract has been broken. Here's the surprising part that most people miss completely. We often assume that avoiding conflict makes people like us more. We think, if I disagree, they will reject me. But psychological research suggests that we actually feel safer with people who are predictable and honest about their boundaries. When you never say no, people eventually stop trusting your yes. They begin to wonder if you really agree, or if you're just saying what they want to hear to avoid tension. This creates a sense of unease. Authentic connection requires honesty, and honesty inevitably leads to occasional disagreement. By avoiding all conflict, you are inadvertently avoiding intimacy. You are keeping the relationship shallow because you are too afraid to show your true self. And here's the moment where agreeableness becomes a disadvantage. When you suppress your true feelings to keep the peace, you are teaching people that your feelings don't matter. This dynamic plays out heavily in the concept of the shadow. Psychologist Carl Jung described the shadow as the parts of ourselves we hide because we think they are unacceptable. For the overly agreeable person, their shadow is often filled with their aggression, their selfishness, and their ambition. They repress these things because they believe that being good means having no dark side. But here is the reality: you need your shadow. You need that little bit of aggression to defend your boundaries. You need a little bit of selfishness to prioritize your own mental health. You need ambition to drive your career. When you completely suppress these drives in the name of being nice, you become powerless. And people, generally speaking, are not attracted to powerlessness, they are attracted to competence and confidence. But this next insight might change how you view your own kindness. True kindness is a choice, not a compulsion. If you help someone because you are afraid they will be mad if you don't, you aren't being kind, you are being compliant. There is a massive difference. Compliance comes from weakness, kindness comes from strength. The person who says, "I can't help you move this weekend because I need to rest," and then helps you the following weekend, is offering a genuine gift. The person who says, "yes," while secretly seething with exhaustion is offering a lie. Learning to tolerate the discomfort of saying no is the first step toward genuine agreeableness. It allows your yes to mean something powerful. Most people miss this completely, thinking that setting a boundary is mean, when in reality, setting a boundary is an act of respect for the relationship. Let's look at how this manifests in the workplace. Research on salary negotiation and career advancement often shows that highly agreeable people tend to earn less than their more disagreeable counterparts. This isn't because bosses love mean employees. It's because disagreeable people, or rather, assertive people, are willing to advocate for their value. They are willing to risk a moment of tension to secure a long-term gain. The overly agreeable employee waits to be noticed, hoping their hard work will speak for itself. But in a busy world, silence is rarely heard. If you are invisible, you cannot be rewarded. This is not about becoming a jerk, it is about becoming visible. It's about stating your contributions as facts, not as apologies. And this is where things get interesting regarding attraction and relationships. There is a misconception that partners want someone who is perfectly submissive and easygoing. While that might sound nice in theory, in practice, it is incredibly boring and sometimes even burdensome. A partner who has no opinions, no preferences, and no boundaries puts all the emotional labor on the other person. The other person has to make every decision, from where to eat dinner to where to live. That is exhausting. We crave partners who are full human beings with their own desires and the spine to pursue them. When you stop trying to be the nice guy or the nice girl and start being a real person, you create the friction necessary for passion. Passion doesn't live in a vacuum of perfect agreement, it lives in the dynamic interplay of two different people. So, how do we shift this? How do we move from pathological agreeableness to healthy integration? Experts suggest starting with micro-boundaries. You don't have to change your entire personality overnight. Start with small things. When someone asks where you want to eat, don't say, "I don't care, whatever you want." Give an opinion. Even if it's just, "I'm not in the mood for pizza, how about Thai?" That small assertion signals that you exist. It signals that you have an inner world. If someone interrupts you, gently say, "Hang on, I wasn't quite finished." These small moments retrain your brain to understand that taking up space is safe. You are teaching yourself that the world will not end just because you asserted a preference. But here's the part most people never realize until they try it: when you start setting boundaries, some people will leave. And that is okay. The people who only liked you because you were a doormat are not the people you want in your life. Their exit creates space for people who respect you. This is the hardest part of the transition. We are so afraid of losing people that we lose ourselves. But the irony is, you cannot have a real relationship if you aren't there. By reclaiming your voice, you are actually inviting deeper, more authentic connections. You are filtering out the users and attracting the peers. If you've ever felt that being good guarantees love or success, it can be a painful realization to see that the world doesn't work that way. The world is indifferent to your silent sacrifices. But this isn't a pessimistic view, it's an empowering one. It means you don't have to wait for permission to be happy. You don't have to earn your existence by being useful to everyone else. You have inherent value simply because you exist. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to have needs that are inconvenient for others. You are allowed to be tired, to be angry, and to be unavailable. And this leads us to the core truth about why nice guys finish last. It's not because they are nice. It is because they are waiting. They are waiting for the world to give them what they want as a reward for their good behavior. But life is not a transaction, it is a creation. You have to step forward and create the life you want, which requires the courage to be disliked occasionally. It requires the courage to face conflict and resolve it, rather than run from it. When you combine your natural empathy and kindness with a backbone of self-respect, you become unstoppable. You become a leader, a partner, and a friend who is actually capable of supporting others because you are supporting yourself first. So, being nice isn't the problem, losing your voice is. When kindness is balanced with confidence, you don't finish last, you lead your life with clarity and strength. It is a beautiful thing to be a kind person, but it is a powerful thing to be a kind person who knows their own worth. If this video brought you insight, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to say, no. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.